Welcome back, everybody. As the weather gets warmer and gyms remain closed, a lot of people are taking up running as their form of exercise. But if you are new to running, it's not as easy as just grabbing your sneakers and going outside. There are other things to consider. So, to help us with the basics of running, we've invited running coach, former Olympian, and Canadian marathon record holder Malindi Elmore to help us out. Hi, Malindi.
Hi. Great to have you with us today. And, in parts of the country where slowly it is starting to get warmer, running might be the first thing that some people think of to get outside and start to get active again. But we need to start from the beginning, which is a checklist for the beginner. What does he or she need to know?
Well, first of all, you need to start with a good pair of running shoes. So I recommend for most people a cushioning neutral shoe, but the best place to go is your local running store, and they can really help you get fitted and make sure you're wearing the appropriate shoe. And a lot of stores are available for support even now. Secondly, something light and comfortable to wear, comfortable clothes for women, a well-supported sports bra, hat, sunglasses in the spring, sunscreen, obviously, and a watch is nice to have, but it's not imperative that you have a fancy GPS watch. It's great to have a running plan, so you're not just winging it, that you have an idea of how to progress your runs from beginner to race, if that's your ultimate goal. And then finally, of course, a great attitude, go out there and have fun and enjoy the process of learning to run.
As with all forms of exercise, we want to make sure we're doing it properly so that we don't injure ourselves. And with running, there is a proper running form. So can you guide us through the right way to run to avoid getting hurt?
Yeah, absolutely. As with all sports, good posture, good tall posture is really critical. So standing tall, thinking of kind of a marionette, pulling the top of your head up, a slight lean at the hips, but not bending at the waist, relaxed shoulders. You want to have your foot landing under your body, not right out in front of your body, so that you're absorbing the shock through your center of gravity. So a lot of people run into problems if they're what's considered overstriding, if that foot's landing way out in front of their body. And then, I often joke that it's cheek to cheek with the arms. If you think of like your face cheek to your butt cheek, in that kind of direction and not side to side, because that would be energy lost. You want your energy moving in a forward direction.
I'm an amateur runner. I do run, but I don't know that I really understand what I'm doing. And I always hear people talking about cadence. So what exactly is cadence? And when we figure out what it is, how do we apply it? Like, what should we be aiming for where cadence is concerned?
Yes. So cadence is basically your steps per minute or your strides per minute. And ideally, research has shown that elite runners run approximately 180 steps per minute, which is pretty quick. A lot of people, when they start off running, are not anywhere close to that number. So again, as I mentioned earlier, that leads to kind of an overstriding situation where your foot is landing too far out in front of your body, and you're setting yourself up possibly for injury because you want to absorb the shock of the landing through your body. So if you can tighten up your stride and focus on landing it under your body as you move forward, that's ideal. It's difficult to necessarily achieve 180 steps per minute, so I suggest just starting slowly and maybe 5 more steps a minute as you go. If you need help, you can download just an easy metronome app to your phone and get a sense of what that feels like.
Okay, this is slowly coming together. I see how we're putting this together. You said in your checklist that having a good plan is integral as well when you're starting out. So what could that look like?
Yes, well, running is very different than jumping on a bike or in a swimming pool because there's gravity, and that is harder on your body. So you can't just go out for an hour run off, straight off the bat. So I suggest a walk run program for people completely new to the sport. Jack Taunton came up with a return to injury plan for athletes, and I think it's really good for beginners as well. So basically you just scale up starting with 30 seconds of running and 4.5 minutes of walking on day 1. And by the end of week 5, you should have gradually built up to 30 minutes straight through running. But it's pretty difficult to just go from not running to running 5 or 10K straight through.
So, Melindy, when I run, I prefer actually a treadmill. And one of the reasons why is because I can control the speed that's right for the pace that I like to run at. When I run outside, I find that I have a hard time regulating the right pace. So I either go out too hard at the beginning and I run out of gas by the end, or I go too slow at the beginning and then I get disappointed with myself because I don't finish the 5K in the time that I thought that I could finish it at. So how do we find the pace that works for our ability?
Well, I think part of it is just experience, and you learn over time what you can manage. But there's a scale, it's called the Borg scale, and it's a really good reference point to start to develop internally. And it's kind of a 1 to 10 scale. And just kind of rate yourself on a run. You should kind of be in a conversational, chatty zone most of the time. So like a 4 or 5 effort, moderate activity. If you're going much faster than that and huffing and puffing and you can't chat, that's going to be too fast, and you can build up to that. But 80% of your running should be in that really aerobic zone where it's really easy to have a conversation.
That's so helpful, that chart. I love that. We discussed earlier, trying to prevent injury is really, really important. So that takes us back to the warm up. What would you suggest that a beginner runner do to get their body ready before a run?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the important thing to remember for most adults is they're sitting most of the day, driving, sitting at a desk. And so your hip flexors will tighten up, shorten up, pull on the hamstrings. So it's really important to do a bit of a dynamic warm up, activate your body before you get going. So I would suggest just some gentle trunk rotations, kind of dynamic. You don't need to do static stretching, but just move your body through a range of motions. Do some leg swings, just get everything lengthened and get your range of motion before starting your run. It's also good to activate your glute muscles, because your running comes from your glute muscles over your hamstrings and your low back. So doing some back bridges with leg lift to activate those glutes, and some lateral leg lifts or clamshells also just make sure that everything's firing properly before you start.
So from warm up to cool down, what do you suggest as a proper cool down after you finish your run?
Well, yeah, stretching, like I said, is kind of a bit old school, the static 30-second hold. So that's not really that important, because you actually want to be more stable than flexible as a runner. So I would say just maybe finishing your run with a gentle walk or an even slower jog to bring your heart rate back down. And then focusing on some refueling, some rehydrating, that sort of thing. But you don't need to spend hours and hours stretching after you're done your run.
And finally, surfaces. People are potentially running in all kinds of different locations. What do you recommend? Is it grass? Is it sidewalk? Is it road? What's best?
Yeah, so absolutely soft surfaces, especially starting out, is really going to help prevent shin splints and common injuries. So I would say if you can hit a dirt pack trail, that's perfect. Grass, if it's not too difficult to run on, are all a great option. If, given the choice of asphalt or concrete, I would pick asphalt over concrete. Concrete, of course, being common sidewalk material. It's very hard on your body. So find soft surfaces, but if you're preparing for a 5K or 10K or half marathon on the roads, then at some point you do need to throw that surface in so that you get used to running on a harder surface as well.
Melindy, this is exactly what we needed and perfect timing for this segment. Thank you so much for giving us your expertise.
Thanks so much for having me.
And we're going to put all of her tips
Thank
up
you.
on our website after the show. Happy and safe running. So we'll be right back right after this.